Alright everybody, how are we doing today? Time to cover more on that globalist organization that is the UN. And yes, while I do not like their ideology, I'm being completely fair. When it's good, I'll call it good. When it's bad, I'll call it bad. I'm not saying I'm being unbiased, I'm just being fair. Anyway, from Reuters, UN Security Council to meet on North Korea missile launches at diplomats. Britain, Germany, and France have asked the United Nations Security Council to meet behind closed doors on Thursday on North Korea's latest missile launches, diplomats said. Yes, behind closed doors, because what do we need with that essential human connection and actually communicate when we're having the serious discussions? Pfft, we don't need that. No, sir. Well, let's be cloistered idiots. North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles early on Wednesday. The South Korean military said only days after Pyongyang launched 2 similar missiles intended to pressure South Korea and the United States to stop upcoming military drills. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres believed the missile launches were just another reminder of the importance of restarting talks on the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula, UN spokesman Stephanie Dujarric told reporters. Ballistic missile launches by North Korea violate UN Security Council resolutions aimed at pressing the country to abandon its nuclear weapons program in Pyongyang, is subject to extensive international sanctions over its missile and nuclear weapon programs. The tests have come despite a meeting between North Korea leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump on June 30th, at which they agreed to revive stalled nuclearization talks, or denuclearization, pardon. Both Trump and his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo played down last week's launches, and Pompeo has continued to express hope for a diplomatic way forward, with North Korea, which has been demanding relief from punishing U.S. sanctions, and for Seoul and Washington to call off the joint exercises planned for this month. Pompeo and the top U.S. North Korean negotiator are attending an Association of Southwest Asian Nations, or ASEAN, regional forum in the Thai capital this week, and Pompeo said he was holding out hope that U.S. officials could meet North Korean counterparts there. Well, now I have seen everything. Mike Pompeo, the Warhawk, not exaggerating and pressing the issue and actually playing something down. Have I slipped into a parallel Earth or something? Have I actually earned a sliver of respect for Mike Pompeo? Wow. But no, in all seriousness, I actually really love the way our current administration has handled the North Korean situation. Minus the sanctions, of course. But the emphasis on negotiations and actually talking it out, it's a thing of beauty in its own sense. That you're willing to actually sit down with someone and talk like human beings, unlike the UN Security Council who wants to meet behind closed doors, because what do we need with that human connection? North Korea said the military deals could derail dialogue and has also warned of a possible end to its freeze on nuclear and long-range missile tests in place since 2017, which Trump has repeatedly held up as evidence of the success of more than a year of engagement with Kim. North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho canceled a planned visit to the ASEAN Forum, but Pompeo told the reporters traveling with him the Americans were still open to a meeting, and he hoped U.S. Special Representatives for North Korea Stephen Biegun and his new North Korean counterpart could meet soon. Trump has continued to hail his good personal relationship with Kim, and some analysts believe North Korea will be emboldened to press more aggressively for U.S. concessions by the U.S. leader's apparent eagerness to hold up his North Korea policy as a success in his 2020 re-election bid. On Wednesday, North Korea's state news agency called the joint exercises the root cause of the confrontation and war, and said a permanent halt to them was a prerequisite for improving inter-Korean relations and ensuring peace on the Korean Peninsula. It said moves by the United States and South Korea to rename the drills were simply double-dealing that proved confrontational maniacs remain unchanged in their black-hearted intention to stifle North Korea by force. A top South Korean official said last month the drills would mainly involve computer simulations rather than the troops in the field. A summit between Trump and Kim in Vietnam in February collapsed after they failed to reconcile the difference between Washington's demands for Pyongyang's complete denuclearization and North Korea's demands for sanctions relief. Because Trump, in spite of how well he's done with Korea, still wants his maximum pressure campaign to resume. His own little form of world policing, which could honestly, in its own way, be just as bad as war, if not worse. But still, more to the point, I think that computer simulations would not be as good as actual troops in the field. But again, you have to pick your battles. If they won't be reasonable about it, then you have to capitulate. You have to make this work. And sometimes you have to make very human compromises. And by that I mean compromises that ultimately appeal to everyone in the circle. Unfortunately, that means sometimes you have to let things go and settle for giving away something you don't want to lose in order to get something that you want to gain. Still, all in all, I would say that this situation could be a hell of a lot worse, and I was very surprised by Mike Pompeo not war-hawking in this situation. But the UN Security Council meeting behind closed doors is absolutely a joke. We most likely won't even know what's even going on in that meeting until well after the situation has already become passé. Because that's how these types of politicians work. It's like they don't share anything that they don't feel like they need to share. If they don't feel like they need to share it, you won't hear a peep. Which, that's crazy to me because it affects all of us. If North Korea decided to re-nuclearize today and launch an attack, we wouldn't even know about it. At least we certainly wouldn't know full detail. We'd only know what they'd want us to know. I mean, this affects us too. And I understand when governments decide, oh, we have to control information so people won't panic. It's like, well, some people panic, some people won't. I don't think that's any of your business to control people's fears and emotions. I think that's up to us as reasonable adults to deal with, not the state. Alright? We deserve to know what's going on. And people like me, who I consider myself to be an internet journalist, will basically do whatever it takes to make sure that people actually get to know what's really going on in the world. I think that that's only fair. You understand, of course. Anyway,